Thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody this evening to this combined general government meeting with the City Council and our Planning Commission. And with that, I'd like to have a roll call.
Councilmember Dennehy, absent. Councilmember Gonzalez, absent. Councilmember Jaquez, absent. Councilmember Meisner, absent. Councilmember Reed, here. Councilmember B. Smith, absent. Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick,
Here.
Mayor Smith, here. Commissioner Clark,
Here.
Commissioner Clement,
Here.
Commissioner Ledoux,
Here.
Commissioner Moss,
Here.
Commissioner Shagley, here. Commissioner R. Smith,
Here.
Chairman Loney.
Here. Thank you. And before we turn it over to staff to give us the information that we're looking for here tonight. So what I would ask is anyone that wasn't covered by the roll call, perhaps you could just say your name and your position so that everyone knows who's here in the room.
All right. Go ahead. I'm Brian Stevens, City Administrator. Patrick Mulready, I'm the City Planner. Rick Harmon, Economic Development Manager. And in the back corner.
Well, I know it, my team. Thank you. And with that, I'll turn it over to Patrick.
So everyone, thank you very much for coming. This is a really exciting thing that we're about to kick off. But I thought before I turn the meeting over to our consultants, I got to go over a little bit of recent history and bring us up to date as to how we got to where we are today. So as those of you who were on Planning Commission and City Council last fall may remember, we adopted riverfront zoning. And this was a big deal because the city had always wanted to do this. And this is probably the closest thing we've ever done to form-based zoning, a true form-based type of zoning. And it was an outcome of that council really had the desire to update all of our Title 16 and 17 zoning, subdivision, and development regulations. Well, at the same time, we were pursuing a grant from the Colorado Division of Local Affairs that actually came through that enabled us to both do that and update our comprehensive plan, which, as I think our consultants are probably going to tell you, is the logical way to do this, because our zoning, subdivision, and development regulations are a natural outcome of what our comprehensive plan recommends. And that's gained from all of the public input that we're going to go through in this process. So beginning in January, we put together a request for proposals that we published online right at the end of January. Went online, I think February 1st was the live date. And we also had a meeting at the end of February where we did a question and answer with all of the various firms that were thinking about submitting proposals. That proposal, this RFP, actually generated 8 responses. That was about twice as many as we were expecting. So apparently we did a pretty good job in enticing folks to want to come in and do this. So with the acceptance of Mayor Smith, what we did was ask both Councilmember Hamrick and our Planning Commission Chair, Mr. Maloney, to join us in a staff panel as well to review those 8 proposals and sort of narrow those down to ones we felt we were most interested in interviewing. We wanted ideally to do 3, we ended up doing 4, and because this was at the height of the COVID epidemic, what we needed to do was have these meetings via Zoom. After that, the decision was pretty much unanimous. House C. Levine was the firm all of us unanimously agreed was absolutely the best fit for this process, and based upon the scope of work that they're going to go over with all of you tonight, we are really excited about where this is going to take us. So let me introduce John Housefield. This is Josh Kuntz right here. I'm going to turn this over to them, and I'm here if you've got any questions as well.
All right, thanks, Patrick. Thanks for coming out this evening and giving us a little bit of your time. As Patrick said, I'm John Housefield of Housefield Levine. With me is Josh Kuntz. He's going to be the project manager for this, handling the day-to-day, really working in concert with Patrick. I'll be involved every step of the way as owner of the firm and principal oversight for this project. This is literally the exact type of project we absolutely love to do. No firm in the country probably has done more or won more awards for comprehensive planning than we have. We're not a big firm, but it's one of the things we specialize in. And we've also probably done more comprehensive plans to zoning in the same process or dovetail process than any other firm, even though we're a small firm. So this is exactly the type of work we absolutely love to do. So when we saw the RFP hit the street, we couldn't wait to submit on it. So we're thrilled to be here. And as Patrick said, I think this is going to be a really fun project. So what we want to run through this evening, I'm not going to keep you here, probably past like 10:30, maybe 10:45 at the latest. Like an hour and a half. Whenever we do engagement throughout the process, we have a lot of engagements set up. We try to limit that to about an hour and a half, because after an hour and a half, no matter how interesting it is, people fade. As much as I love planning and zoning, an hour and a half is a lot to ask of other people. So we try to keep it pretty concise. And this group is really going to be our sounding board throughout this project. Some processes will have just the plan commission do it, some will have a separate advisory committee or steering committee set up. But the way we pitched it as part of our proposal was to have these joint meetings throughout the process with plan commission and city council. That we would touch base with you several times throughout the process to sort of sign off on what we've done before we go on to the next piece. So when we get to the end, you will recognize what we've done as a collaborative effort, say this is exactly where we need to be, this is exactly what we need. Not at the end of the day, boy, what is this, how did we get here? Because we're going to be working so closely with this group throughout the process. So I want to go through just a pretty brief introductory sort of presentation, maybe 15 minutes or so, walk you through the agenda that was in your packet, introductions, roles and responsibilities, scope of work, next steps. But I want to reserve about an hour's worth of time to take you through like a brief exercise to sort of kick it off, because we want to know sort of where your heads are at, because we consider ourselves for the duration of this to be an extension of city staff. So when I think of the project team, I think of us and everybody sitting over there in that row that we spent this afternoon with in a meeting and driving all over Canyon City in an excellently driven and excellently guided tour of all the different areas in an open-air Jeep. So that's what we cut the acronym. Next time we'll work in the margarita stop somewhere on the tour. But I want to go through a little bit of an orientation to set the tone today. So it's very, very informal. This group, I think of more as a working group and as a sounding board, not as a dressed-up dog and pony show. When we meet with you throughout the process, this will be the first time we sort of take you through an exercise where you weren't given materials ahead of time, because we want to get your reaction. We want to get your initial input. Every time we meet from now on in the process, you will get materials at least a week in advance. Scribble on it, mark it up, write on it, I like this, I don't like this, what about that, did you think about this? So when we meet, we just get into it, and can really roll up our sleeves and start working as a group through this. So, real quickly, we're going to go over sort of roles and responsibilities. This is the project team, sort of leadership of the project team. So again, myself, John Houseel, FAICP, founder and owner of Houseel Levine with my partner, Devin Levine. Josh will be the project manager. Josh and I are both AICP. I'm FAICP. We've got about, I think, 11 AICP members on our staff. That's the American Institute of Certified Planners. So we take it very seriously. We'll be the lead firm doing all the planning, the zoning, the regulatory, the land use, all of that work, and the outreach. We're also joined with JR Engineering, Eli Barney. JR Engineering has done the transportation and infrastructure work with us on probably 7 comprehensive plans in the state of Colorado in the last 5 years. We work really well with JR. They have an office, they have several, but they have one in Colorado Springs, I think is their closest. And then we're going to be working on environmental, water, and other resource issues with Tetra Tech. We've been working with Ben and his team in several states across the country, as a matter of fact. In fact, Ben and his team are located out of the Colorado Springs office as well. So they're going to be team members as part of this assignment. And again, sort of break down roles and responsibilities a little bit further. That's the consultant team. We consider ourselves to be an extension of city staff and all the different departments. This doesn't need to be a plan just for the planning department. It's got to work for public works. It's got to work for economic development. It's got to work for administration. It's got to work for the arts and cultural components in the community. We want to make sure that we're meeting with the fire districts, the police. This has to work for everybody. The way I describe it, I'm not a huge sports guy, but if you think about it, so I don't know why I use this analogy, but people tend to get it. So if you think about a football team, quarterback has a very, very specific role. He has to do his job. He has to execute it well. Wide receiver has a very different role, very, very completely different set of athletic skills, things he has to do on the field. They're each different things, but if they're working together and in concert, working off the same playbook, but doing their part, they consistently move the ball down the field, they can score goals, and they can win the game. Goals, you see that thing in hockey all the time. They can score points and win the game. But if people aren't working on the same playbook, if you're a city, 10 years can go by, and you can be really busy doing a lot of work, and in 10 years now, you could look back and say, like, man, we've been killing ourselves for 10 years, and we're in the same place we were 10 years ago. Or you can say, we've been so busy the last 10 years, and look what we've accomplished. We've done this, we've done that, we've done this, but you had to all be working off the same playbook. And a comprehensive plan is that playbook. It's a foundation for decision making. Your role in this, besides your role as appointed and elected officials, is a community sounding board. I think that's the best way to look at it. As we go through the process, we want to bring ideas out to the community. We want to vet those ideas here first. We want you representing your different districts, representing the community at large, representing your perspective as a business owner, elected official, an appointed official, plan commission member, whatever. You can bring a certain perspective. We can run ideas past you as we develop draft materials, then post it online and bring it up to the community to see what they think about it, to continue that refinement process. But our first shot is internally. Our next shot is with staff at that team, then we collectively bring things to this table to group and discuss, then we go out to the public to group and discuss. So it's a sequence. You are our community sounding board, and that's critical. So again, a little bit about House of Living. We work all over the United States. We work from little bitty farming communities to major metropolitan areas of several million people and anything and everything in between. We've won several awards, both statewide and national, including last year in the state of Colorado, in the Comprehensive Plan Award for General Plan for the Aurora Comprehensive Plan. We did Aurora Places. So we did that and won the AP Award in Colorado last year. And we take what we do very, very, very seriously, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. We have a lot of fun in what we do. We enjoy the ride, if you will. We were sharing good stories with staff about, and one of the first things I ask is, if I'm here and I have to go to one place to eat, where am I going to eat? I need to know that. We need to know these things. Because as you travel around to all these different places all over the U.S., we try to hit the spots that are uniquely that place. I'm talking high end and as low end as you can get, and everything in between. And we had some good stories that we were sharing today about that. But we really have a lot of fun, and we're able to bring, as opposed to a local firm, we've done, like I said, seven plans, I think, in Colorado in the last 5 years. But we can say, hey, boy, in Connecticut, they're doing this. It's kind of a cool approach. And in Muskogee, Oklahoma, they did this in their historic downtown, and it worked really well. They had to reusable school buildings. Or, you know, we did this in Bentonville across the world headquarters from Walmart, and we really were able to bring back a neighborhood that was really struggling. But if you don't have a national practice with local expertise, you can't leverage national best practice or experience. It's all academic or theoretical. But when you've done 300 community plans over the last 15 years, you can have a whole library of experience to draw from and to think about. Not that it would be directly relevant, but it's important to have that experience. So what I want to do now is go through the scope of work. And you have it in detail. I don't want to spend a ton of time going through it in hyper detail, but I want you to be aware of the process that we're going to be undertaking over the course of the next year. And it's a lot. So I'm going to throw a lot at you, ask questions if you want, throughout anything. But you have hard copies in your packets, and so feel free to ask questions. And before we get started into like a detailed process, planning has to do three things. That's it. It's not overly complicated. Whether you're planning for your city for the next 20 years or you're planning your daughter's wedding next October. You have to figure out when you start planning something, where are we right now? The good, the bad, the ugly, what do we have to work with? Honestly, what's our starting point? Right? What are we working with? The next thing is we know where we are. Number two is where do we want to go? Where do we want to be as a community in 5 years, 15, 20 years, next year? And once you determine where it is you want to go, the third thing is what do we have to do to get there? It's a lot of different things. Some big, some little, some impactful, some capital improvement, some zoning, some staffing, whatever. So where are we now? Where do we want to go? And how do we get there? That, in essence, is what planning is. So since we're consultants, we take those three things and turn it into 9 steps. I want to walk through this real quickly. So project initiation is what we're doing this trip. We have a kickoff meeting today with several departments and a two-hour tour of the city, and then the joint kickoff meeting with Planning Commission and City Council. The next thing we're going to be doing is sort of this existing conditions analysis. That's sort of that where are we now, sort of the state of the community from all perspectives. So we've already begun getting a lot of data information. We did a data request to the city probably a month or so ago. So we've already started getting all the GIS files, the plans, the ordinances. We've been getting all that over the last month because we have to do a deep dive. So We look at all relevant past plans, studies, reports, initiatives, anything you're currently doing or have done in the last several years, we need to know, because you've done a lot of good work. The Riverwalk's a good example, or the River Plan is a good example. We do a deep dive into demographics and market. We have to make sure if we make recommendations, are they market viable, or are they just pie in the sky? We don't want them. We want to make sure they can actually be done. We take a look at existing land use and development. We do a deep dive into current zoning, transportation and mobility, community facilities, cultural and historic resources, natural resources, environment, open space, including water. We take all of this and we boil it down into what we call an ECR, an existing analysis report, and that is that snapshot of Canyon City right now. It's not to be the ultimate exhaustive inventory of everything, but it's meant to highlight issues, opportunities, priorities, concerns that will be the basis of us beginning to get into building a plan. And unless we're all sort of on the same page with what we have to work with, the good, the bad, the ugly, the opportunities and the concerns, then we know if we don't have that, it's going to be hard to sort of start writing recommendations or ideas. We have to be all on the same page. So we pull all this together into this report, and then again, next time we meet will be another joint meeting of this group to walk through in detail the findings of that report. What did we find out? What was good? What wasn't working? What was? That's the next time we meet, we'll go through that report. The other thing we're going to be doing at the same time you're doing this concurrently and it'll take a few months to do all that background work and research. Josh and I will be out here through Friday afternoon, evening, driving around, taking pictures, doing maps, inventorying everything, writing things down, observations, to start building that atlas of existing conditions. So we'll be doing that now to bring back. So we'll be in town again all day tomorrow and most of Friday. So if you see two guys driving around, we got a convertible because we figured why not, right? So if you see us driving around, taking notes, and I've told staff this before, we will let the police department know what our make and vehicle model is and the license plate. Because when you're driving around a community slow and pulling over and stopping and taking notes and taking pictures, the police will often get called saying, there's two guys driving around. So we like to give the cops a heads up that we're going to be out and about. So the other thing we're doing at the same time is community outreach. The next time we come out here, it will likely be mid-September, something around there, when people get back to school and back from summer vacations and stuff. The push there is then going to be outreach, not initiation, but outward bound, public outreach. So branding and collateral, we already did that, which is why you see the logo on here. The logo is already up and branded. An interactive project website. Who's been to the website so far? Ooh, that's bad. Okay. Note, homework assignment number 1. I'm going to give you 2 homework assignments as we go through this. Go to the project website, all right? It's pretty easy because look at the logo.
Picture Canyon City 2040.com.
That's it. Couldn't be easier. Picture Canyon City 2040.com. It's the portal for all things comprehensive plan. So go there. There's a lot of things you can do while you're on the website. I would encourage you to do it. So your homework is not just to go to the website. It's go to the website and that's 3C is an online questionnaire. It probably takes 10 or 15 minutes to fill out. Fill out the questionnaire that's on the website. Homework's not done yet. Next thing, 3D, is a thing called map.social. That's live and active on the website. You click on it, and you'll see a GIS interactive map of Canyon City. Just like navigating Google Maps or anything else, you can zoom in, zoom out, pan around. You can drop a pin, write any comment. You can take a picture with your phone, drop a picture on your point. And it's a way for people across the entire city we can collect thousands and thousands of people's inputs, photographs, comments, and map it inside GIS geographically to different points of the city. This intersection is dangerous. I want to see redevelopment on that site. This is a public safety concern. I don't like the appearance of this. This is a key asset we should take better advantage of. All these are menu-driven icons on map.social. So go on the website, poke around, take a questionnaire, go to map.social. When we come back out in September, we will be conducting a business workshop. How many people here own a business in Canyon City? All right, well, that's good. Business owners and managers and operators have a unique perspective on a municipality and a community, different than residents oftentimes. If there are strict idling limitations in a business district, residents might think it's great, but business might say, I can't unload my materials fast enough. You guys keep harassing me because my trucks have to be there for an hour, not a half an hour. Or the window of time doesn't work. Or your sign ordinance is way too restrictive, and I don't think it's right because it's content-based, not size-based. Or residents don't know that stuff. all right? Or it takes way too long to get an occupancy build-out permit, I can't turn tenant space over quickly enough. It's a real problem for me. Pueblo does it better. Residents don't know that, business owners do. So we have a workshop just for business owners and operators. And so talk to your other fellow business owners and drive to the meeting. We'll work on that as well. Is there a question? Yeah, go ahead.
So in your information, you're talking about the fact that staff are gonna identify those individuals and groups to be interviewed?
Well, we're gonna get to that in a little bit, but yeah, they're gonna help with that, and you are as well. Everybody in this room is as well. I'll get to that in a little bit. So for the business workshop, anybody that owns or operates in business in town is welcome to come to that workshop. Our residents can as well, but it's gonna be business focused, okay? The other thing, which the gentleman back here was talking about, is key person interview and focus group discussions. There's a lot of good information that we can gather from a community that we're not gonna hear in a public forum. So if I'm in a room with 100 residents and business owners mixed, someone might say, boy, if I could get that guy one-on-one and really tell him what I think we need to work on, but I don't want to say it, in front of everybody. I want an audience with this person. There are individuals, there are groups that you might think have a very unique and important perspective, a voice we have got to spend an hour sitting down within a closed room and talk to these people, because they have a real good handle on housing or homelessness, or they have a real good handle on, they're an Audubon advocacy group, or they're specialists in adaptive reuse of historic structures, or maybe it's Carl Jenkins, who's lived here for 114 years, and Carl's just waiting to get a chance to tell somebody what's going on historically. Or the guy who opened up a business and he's lived here for 3 months, he moved here from Houston. Maybe he's got a great perspective that you say, like, boy, this guy would be a great person to talk to. Or this woman, she's one of the best developers we have in town. Talk to her. She can tell you what it's going to take to get development really going here. We don't know those individuals. We don't know those groups of people. Could be a local not-for-profit. Don't know. Who are the people, who are the groups that you think if we could set up 10 to 12 of these interviews or groups, and we give each one 1 hour, who are those 10 or 12 people or 10 or 12 groups we should sit down with one-on-one? We don't know who those are. You do. So here's assignment number 2 for you, is give Patrick a list of at least 3 people or groups that you think we would benefit from sitting down and talking to get sort of an insight or a unique perspective we talk to. Yeah?
How long was that survey that you're mentioning there?
The online survey, again, it's live right now. It's on the website, and we're going to be pushing out through social media and other things to drive content or drive people to it, email campaigns and other stuff, and that'll be up for at least the next 3 months. So it's up for a while, all right? We want to keep it up until we do that first existing conditions report, because we're going to take all the feedback from all this outreach. That's going to go in that existing conditions report too. Because as important as it is for us to talk about land use and zoning and facilities and roads and the environment, it's here's what people want, here's what people care about, here's what they don't want to see, here's what their priorities are. That's got to be part of the existing conditions. So the results of all of this will go into that report as well. Yeah?
So on the existing conditions report, and this may be a question for city staff here too. The one, you've covered a lot of the documentation that you guys are going to need to see. What about, are you also going to be asking for, or have you already gotten, what the current level of activity is? Building permits,
Sure.
Projects that are going on right now,
Okay.
that kind of.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I identified the current plan, studies, reports, whatever that you've recently done, currently doing, those sorts of things. But we'll do a deep dive. We'll take a look when we look at market and demographics. We'll take a look at permit activity, how many permits you issue, whether different growth areas are occurring. One of the things we always ask for as well is, can we get copies of the plan, like the last 5 years of development? Or even some that died on the vine because they didn't get approved, or they were a concept that were cool but didn't get traction. I just want to get a sense of where people's heads are at. So that's all good information. And if you're aware of a data set or something that you think we should get that we might not be thinking of, let Patrick know, we'll get it. So we'll look at everything. We try to turn over every stone, right? So the other thing that we have for after here at 3G is DIY workshops. We've heard these calls for a workshop in a box or whatever. But this is where there may be a homeowners association or a planned development association or a church group that wants to do its own workshop. not come to one of the cities, so they say, hey, we can do our own. And that's great, we applaud that. In Aurora, we did DIY workshop kits in, I think, 6 or 7 different languages. And we had volunteers use them. So it's a kit you can pick up, manila envelope. There's instructions on how to facilitate the workshop. There's a fold-out poster you can put on your door at the church so people know which door to go in if you want to tape it inside your door. There's handouts to give to people. We include the little golf pencils. So people that show up, they don't need to bring anything with them. We give instructions on how to facilitate a workshop up to 20 people in 1 hour. Because if you don't manage outreach, it's just background noise. You got to manage it. You want to hear everything people have to say, but it's got to be managed. So we formulate a way, for, no matter who does it, to get feedback in a manner we can use. And in some communities, the DIY kits don't really take off. In other communities, we'll have hundreds of them. We just don't know, but they'll be available. So if you think there's a group out there that might want to do a workshop kit, let us know. And then the last thing is a community visioning charrette. Now, because of COVID and gathering restrictions or whatever, we don't know what this is going to look like at this point. Over the last few months, we've done several of these over a combination of like GoToWebinar or Facebook Live, where we might have distanced 50 people in the room and another 180 people out about participating via Facebook Live, asking questions, typing in questions, getting on a microphone. We also often do this with keypad polling, which is real-time polling. So what we do is I can ask a question, and then I can say, okay, everyone take out your smartphone and click on this app, and you can download the app in 5 seconds and put it on the wall. And I'll say, okay, here's the question. Yes, no, rate this 1 to 5, whatever it is. The question will come up on your phone, and you just punch your answer. The answers are instantly transmitted to a giant screen in the front of the room. So if we have 100 people in the room, I can say, okay, 80 of you said you were in favor of a dog park, but 20 of you say absolutely no way, or absolutely not, we should be doing this. Who doesn't think we should have one? And I said, who's one of the people that voted no? And a hand will go up, or if it's really lopsided or real close. But we can have community dialogue with people in the room based off the stuff they're posting real time, like a game show. It's a lot of fun. But we can incorporate that into this as well. So again, we're looking at probably mid-September, depending on what the ability to gather, not gather, inside, outside, whatever. We can customize an in-person, hybrid, virtual, combined, whatever, to get as many people as we can to participate in that. So we don't know what that'll look like yet. It could manifest in several different ways. And this will all be done over the next few months as well. Then we move in, we take all that research, all that outreach, all that feedback, all those interviews, and we begin to craft a vision statement, building on the vision and the priorities, issues, concerns residents and business owners and officials told us. We'll draft a vision statement, preliminary goals and objectives, and then a framework. This is our framework for the plan, sort of a blueprint. Here's the chapters, which the chapters should include. Here's the topics we have to address. Here's how we have to address them. And we want to make sure everybody's on the same page before we start developing content. So we then come back, so we have this meeting with you. Second meeting is to go over that existing conditions report. The third meeting with you will be to review the draft vision, goals, objectives, policies, and a framework for the document. That'll be the next time, that'll be the third time we meet with this group to go over all of them. Welcome. The next thing what we do is now that we have a framework in place, we begin to craft the core elements. What's the core pieces of the land use plan? What's the core recommendations of the transportation plan? What's the core recommendations of the arts and culture or historical resources chapter? We'll define the chapters in the framework, the previous step, and here we start developing content. So we can say this is exactly the type of stuff we should be addressing. These are the recommendations we should be throwing out there for consideration. But we start drafting the key pieces of the plan. And then again, we meet back with this group to go over those pieces as they're being developed, okay? And then once we have the pieces and how they're beginning to frame up, we say, okay, these are great ideas, and we all agree to them. How do we start making this happen over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? What's the implementation strategy to get this stuff done? So we have to start preparing an implementation strategy and matrix to deliver the framework, okay? And it's pretty detailed what the city has to do, who you have to partner with, how you get it paid for, when do you undertake it, what grants are available to help with funding. It's pretty detailed. We then come back and meet with this group again to go over that preliminary, here's how we can get this done over the next several years. Now we've gone through the vision, the goals, objectives, the policies, the framework, the core plan components, the implementation strategy. We have all the pieces to begin drafting the plan. So in step 7, we draft the plan, have another meeting with you to review the draft. We go out to the community. We have a public open house that will be available online. People can comment, review it, provide feedback virtually or real time. Everything we produce over time, once you've looked at it, will go on the public website, project website. Anybody can view it, comment on it, download it, print it, email, whatever they want. It'll all be online, all of it, throughout the whole step. We then take the final draft to the Planning Commission for public hearing and City Council for adoption. And then we will take it once it's adopted and prepare a web-based version. And when I say a web-based version, I'm not talking about a PDF that lives on the website that you just scroll through or click on. A PDF is just an electronic version of a paper copy. I'm talking about what we call a story map. So if you click on it, it'll be a condensed version of the entire plan. And you might say, like the land use and development chapter. And you might see the land use map on your screen. And to the right will be text, condensed text. And you can scroll through the text, but the map will stay stationary. If you put your cursor over the map, you can move it around just like in Google Maps. It'll be an interactive, fully interactive live GIS map. You can zoom into your parcel. You can zoom out, you can pan around, you can look at it, whatever you want. Fully interactive GIS map embedded in this online document. If there's a photograph of the downtown, say, the downtown district, blah, 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 and we have a couple photos of the downtown, you could click on the photo, and it may go full screen so you can see it, and it may open up a library of photos of the downtown. You can click on any one you want, X out of that, it goes back to the story map. So you can see a fully interactive mapped version of your comprehensive plan that would live online. You can do it via phone, tablet, desktop, whatever you want. So far better than just a PDF. You'll get that after adoption. Then we move into the code focus. And this is crucial, and I want to emphasize this. Kudos for doing the comprehensive plan and zoning in one shot. We do a lot of this, and we're doing more of it, because a plan only is valuable if you use it, right? You do a great plan, and it's punted to the curb and never look at it again, well, you might as well not have a plan. Probably the most impactful and powerful implementation tool a city has is zoning, are your codes and regulations. Because it doesn't cost a lot to do it, but it can change development parameters overnight. It can change what comes out of the ground overnight. It can change the ease with which adaptive reuse can be done overnight. Tremendous impact can happen very quickly when you look at your codes and ordinances. So after the plan is adopted, we'll begin looking, we'll be doing another round of interviews with key stakeholders, and these will be local builders, local architects, local developers who have to use the code. And they might say, it doesn't work for these reasons, or as an architect, this is really problematic. Or this doesn't work for me in terms of development because we can't meet those standards. It's a problem. So we'll do a round of interviews with people who are sort of zoning focused. We'll do a detailed diagnostic, basically ripping apart your existing code, and then organize a framework on how we think we need to change it going forward. Then we'll have a meeting with you to say, here's what we need to do for your zoning ordinance before we do it. Is there another question in the back?
On IAA, at least me personally as a council person, I want to see the list of the stakeholders that you're going to interview.
Sure.
And I would suggest that that must be provided to council to ensure that we are in fact reaching out to a wide variety of our contractors. Why this whole process is getting done to start with.
I agree. We want to make sure it works. So again, I've been on the public sector side. I've been a community development director for the staff of inspectors and planners, and to us, planning is not theoretical. It's not some academic pie-in-the-sky exercise. If it doesn't work on the ground, what's the point? We work on zoning all across the United States, and to me, zoning and planning need to work together to sort of supercharge. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, in follow-up, when we talked about, changes you might need to make, I think part of council's expectations might be to actually completely wipe it away.
Yep.
And just have clean, like, simple and easy.
Right. Yeah, we won't reinvent for the purpose of reinventing, for the sake of reinventing, but if something just isn't working or is problematic, we'll tell you. And in a lot of...
That's why we're doing it.
It might be easier to just wipe it out.
And in a lot of communities, what we end up doing is completely just eviscerating it and building it from scratch. But our approach to it is, zoning is a very, very powerful tool, and if your planning and zoning right now is hindering private investment, you've got a bad code, right? That doesn't mean you bend over backwards and give developers and builders everything they want, because that city would look crazy, all right? But if it's preventing reasonable reinvestment, if it's preventing things coming out of the ground that you ultimately would want, it has to be a win-win. It should allow developers, we should supercharge private investment in the private sector and make it possible to supercharge the achievement of community objectives. And they're not mutually exclusive. The problem with planning as a profession, academically, that's sort of what they ingrain in you in school. Developers are the bad guy, they're trying to get away with something, blah, blah, blah. That's just simply not the case. Without good developers and good builders, nothing gets done. Cities aren't building subdivisions.
So that's gonna be a really heavy emphasis.
Yeah.
I think for me, and I think I'm thinking about the most of the council, to make sure that is really good, easy, streamlined.
It's gotta be. So that's, just so you know, that's the lens with which, and I didn't know that ahead of time, that's what people thought. I'm just letting you know that's sort of my philosophy and why I built the firm the way I did is, it has to work in concert with strategic partners, developers, builders, property owners are strategic partners. They're not, and our code will be as easy, user-friendly, and fair as possible to help developers and builders and homeowners, quite frankly, do what they need to do to invest in their projects and properties while delivering the vision the community aspires to achieve. And those are very much dovetailing concepts, but there's not, if you don't go in there with that intention, you will never come out with that outcome. And we go in with that intention. So once we've organized this structure, but I agree, I don't know the builders to talk to, I don't know the developers or architects to talk to, we will have to get that from you. So who we interview and talk to is gonna come from you, it's not gonna come from us. And then we meet with this group again, sort of lay out that foundation, and then we get into actually crafting the code. Step 9 is, we start looking at district standards and uses permitted as of right versus special review. City staff and the attorney will view this. Development and design standards, parking and signage. The two biggest components of the plan or zoning that people think about are the districts and the use standards and bulk height setbacks. So what's my zoning district, and what uses can I do there, and how tall can my building be, and what are my setbacks? So it's sort of the bulk standards and the use standards. That's what most people think of as zoning. The part that is often as or more impactful to developers or property owners is the process by which things get enabled or titled. What is the development review process? Is it streamlined? Is it efficient? Is it fair? Is it a crapshoot? Is it run something up the flagpole, see what happens? Is there any level of legal fair certainty on either side? Don't know. But the process is crucial. The other part of the development code is not zoning district specific, like here's my zoning, here's my uses. It's the things that can exist in several districts. They're called sort of standards of general applicability or design standards. What are the standards to build a parking lot? What are the standards to put up a sign? What are the standards for putting up outside lighting? What's the standard for screening if you're an industrial use adjacent to a residential neighborhood? Some of these things aren't dependent on the district or the use. They're dependent on the feature on the site, lighting, parking, landscaping, dumpster screening. I don't care if I'm an industrial use, a restaurant, or a retail shop. If I have a dumpster, what's the rules by which I have to screen that? Those are rules of general applicability. These are all things that have to be in a clear code. So we'll be working on all of that and the process of what that looks like as well. And then at the end of step 9, again, a lot of meetings with city council. We have another joint meeting here to go over yet again with this group. And then we will take it out and draft the code and the maps based off of this final meeting. Then planning commission for public hearing, then to city council adoption, and then we'll prepare for online application. And it's not Sterling Codifier, Susan, is it? Q codes? Okay. So Muni codes, Sterling Codifiers, and Q code are the ones that you see most cities have. And we will give all the graphics, and our zoning has a lot of graphics. It's not, you should, no offense to anybody who's an attorney in the room, you shouldn't need an attorney to interpret a zoning ordinance. You just shouldn't. A resident should be able to open a zoning ordinance up, and and I work at a retail shop or whatever, I should be able to look at a zoning ordinance and understand what it's telling me, all right? I shouldn't have to go hire an attorney to say, Jane, can you tell me what I'm supposed to be doing here? Because I can't follow any of this process. So we will make sure that that all works. And we do use a lot of graphics, a lot of visuals. because we live in a graphic and communicative age. Everything is visual, so our zoning ordinances are as well. We would adapt to pretty unique visual approaches. So we will provide all of our graphics and our text to Q code so they can post it in an online publication. So that's the process. Took a little bit longer than I wanted to talk to. Because of the timeline, we're going to get this done in about a year, a little less. A lot to do in a year. We're not going to wait for the comprehensive plan to get adopted to start working on the zone. We don't need to. So what I show here sequentially is because we had to sort of show it sequentially. But some of the activities, steps 8, will begin to take place right away. All right, the diagnostic of your code, talking to people, things like that. We don't have to wait till the plan is adopted. Because we want to get both of these done by June 2020. All right, that's our goal, and we're going to get it done. So upcoming events, 1-year timeline more or less. Upcoming events, business focus group workshops, key person interviews, focus group discussions, community visioning, charrette. That's the next round. That'll be likely mid-September. Dates are not set yet, and we don't know quite yet what this venue will look like yet. We don't know. We'll figure that out. All right, now what I want to do is, does everybody have a question here? Josh, we need to hand them out. All right, Josh is going to hand out a questionnaire. So the next thing I want to walk you through is sort of a quick exercise. Got about 50 minutes or so to walk through this. I want to have you out of here by about 6:30. And again, this is pretty casual, but I want to have a sense of where your heads are at. As the elected and appointed officials, don't feel, okay, I'm going to sound like a school teacher here real quick, all right? So picture yourself back in 3rd grade, real fast. Do not start filling out the piece of paper I just gave you until I tell you to start filling out your piece of paper. Do not work ahead. Only work on the question I tell you to work on. If you finish the question I tell you to work on, you can set down your pencil, lay your head on the table, whatever you want to do. But don't go to the next question. So we're going to go through this in a group. We will be collecting these papers, and we will be recording your answers. Don't put your names on them. We're not going to say, Commissioner so-and-so said this, or Planning Commissioner so-and-so said this. We're going to say we held a workshop, and this is what we heard. All right? So we will be collecting these papers. We will be summarizing your answers, not assigning them to anybody. And this helps us to begin to get a sense of what's going on. So we're going to go through this. I'm going to give you a few questions. Answer only the question I ask you to answer. You can write a novel if you want. I always get nervous when there's that guy in the front row. He just takes out his pen, and he starts trucking on that first answer, and he does this. And he starts trucking on the backside. You can write a novel if you want. Brevity is appreciated. Keep it as concise as you can. First one is identify the 5 top issues or concerns that you think right now are facing Canyon City. And when I refer to this as Canyon City, I don't mean the city proper. It can be this, but it can also be the community. So maybe it's an issue facing the community, but it's in an unincorporated area right next to the city limits. But it's an issue we have to contend with in the plan. So, and I don't want to hamstring. I don't want to say it has to be zoning or planning related. It could be anything you think is an issue. But in your mind, from your perspective, there's no right or wrong. What do you think are all things on the table? The Canyon City community. What do you think are 5 of the single biggest issues or concerns confronting this community right now? So take a few minutes and write your answers down to question number 1. Do not go on to question number 2. Anybody in the room gets to play along with this. So anybody who's here, feel free to fill out the form. Raise your hand, who here has lived in Canyon City more than 10 years? More than 20? More than 30? Who's lived here less than 5? It's a pretty good mix. Business owners, I know there's 3, I think. School-age kids? Anybody got school-age kids? 4 or 5. And when you get your 5, just put your pencils down there, okay? Is it a Starbucks drink or is it drinking a Starbucks? That's the orangest drink I think I've ever seen.
It's color heating cup. So what's the color on the inside? Yeah, it's just water.
That's pretty cool.
That's what I tell everyone.
Yeah, that's right down there. They gotta get me one of those.
To give me something like water.
Yeah, right. What's that? Just water.
You just came from that place.
Yeah, just like that.
All right, some of you look like you're done. I'll give you another minute to wrap up. I know, it's a lot of pressure.
I need more room.
Always one. Usually there's more than.
Do you have more than 5 things?
No, I'm just expanding on 1, 2, and 3. Certain things.
All right, so a couple people are still wrapping up, that's fine. What I want to do now is I'm going to go around the room, and when I get to you, give me one of the things you wrote down. Don't give me 2, don't give me 3, don't give me all 5, just give me one of them. And say it fairly succinctly, and Josh is going to write it down on the tablet up here. And he's writing it down, and he may abbreviate it because we just want to keep it fairly succinct up here. And what Josh is writing down is just sort of a visual cue so we can keep track of what people have said. Now, as I go around the room and I call on you, don't repeat something somebody else has already said, all right? If he says, we need a dog park, all right? That's my wife would write down, no matter what the issue is. So we're writing dog park up there. If you have it down here, that's what you're just itching to say it, don't say it, say something else. And then if we go around and we get to you and all of your ideas have already been said, to say all of mine are already up there. I'll just keep moving around. What we're trying to get here is a cumulative list of issues, not how many times somebody has said it. So let's have one of yours, go ahead.
Empty or dilapidated buildings with rent to life for businesses to sustain.
Okay, so you already did that. So right off the bat, I can tell he's a politician. Because right off the bat, and he got 2 good ones in there as one answer. So sort of the vacant or rundown buildings, that's a legit one. And then the issue of high rents. So there is a relationship there, but they're 2 different, and there's a correlation between those, but they're 2 separate ones. So you can put vacant buildings, high rent. But it also goes, usually I have to go hands off, because that was very good segue for what I'm going to say. Usually I have to go several people in before I get 2 issues that are seemingly different but very related. And I make the case that, you can't divorce all these things from one another, there's a interrelationship. Well, he in one answer gave us 2 answers, and both of us are interrelated. So it was very well done. Impressive. So we'll go to you now.
Let's see. I think it's a challenge for us to attract employers to Canyon City, and I have some examples of why.
Okay, so challenge, just put something there, challenge attracting employers, but we'll put that out there for the number. What are some of the reasons you got why? I'm curious.
Well, it's more of an opinion, but I think we're so close to Springs and Pueblo that there's greater amenities there, things for spouses to do, transfer spousal jobs.
Right.
Where we're lack that.
Right, that's good. That's a good point. I would agree. Okay.
One of the top issues I think that's going to be facing our community here shortly, kind of in the near term, is aquatic recreation facility.
Okay? The need for it. Okay, so the need for aquatic recreation facility. Okay,
Currently, we have a reputation for not being business and development friendly.
okay, that's good. The next one is reputation for not being business friendly. That's, those are, first of all, those reputations have an impact. And it takes real intention to undo those. They don't undo themselves. So that's very good.
And recruiting and retaining quality businesses.
Okay, recruiting and retaining, it's sort of, is it similar to the first one, challenge attracting employers, is it, or, so I'd say,
It's separate than employees.
okay, I would say recruiting and, retaining business.
And I don't know if we can change number 3 to be employers and employees.
Well, let's leave it the way you said it, but we can certainly, I mean, we'll look at that. And I'll just say right now, we'll look at everything that gets mentioned and other stuff, and so. I just want to get, this is sort of I just want to get a sense of what's sort of chewing on your brain right now. So, recruitment and retention of businesses. Mixed land use.
This is still in agriculture.
Too much, not enough, what, define, what do you,
All of the above?
okay, so this is the challenge of mix of land uses?
Yeah.
In close proximity, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, all right. So a challenge of mixed land uses in close proximity. And you do see that when we did our tour today, one of the things I was asking about was, in some areas, it's hard to know if it's an industrial area, commercial area, residential area, because uses are really intermixed. And sometimes that's a characteristic of areas that develop sort of in a freehand manner in unincorporated areas that then became annexed into an incorporated area, and that development kind of then gets brought in. And those are challenging things to regulate. Okay?
Trying to figure out how to word this. Okay. I'll just do the easy one. Parking, downtown for customers versus the second floor residents. We have a tough time with parking, especially for people who won't visit and just circle around blocks
Right,
and blocks
that's good.
and blocks.
So
People don't like to walk
particularly in the downtown.
for right now.
So downtown area parking, good. If people go to a mall, park on the outside edge of a mall parking lot, they'll walk 3/4 of a mile through the parking lot to get to the store, but they won't park a block away in the downtown from the store.
It's parking in general, it's not just downtown,
Right.
but it's also like City Market. It's one of
Right.
the worst places for accidents, Walmart accidents, it's just parking in general.
Not good. All right?
No community transportation?
Oh, the public transportation. Okay, so lack of public transportation. Okay?
I just, in general, Fremont Drive, it's such a debacle.
Fremont Drive,
Fremont Drive.
right? Fremont Drive was first. Okay? All up there?
All up there.
All right, pretty good. Usually somewhere between like, 11 and 20, no matter if it's a town of 80 farmers or 800,000 people, we usually get someone to say, which shows consensus, which is a good thing.
The connectivity,
Good.
really nice downtown, really nice river corridor,
That is
or not?
very good. Connectivity is a huge one, and that's, when you're walking or biking, nothing's worse than like you're biking, and all of a sudden what you're biking on ends, and you're just sort of like looking around, there's no place to go, so. You've got great areas, but we had to better connect them. Right over here?
Well,
Oh, right over here.
Affordable housing.
Okay, affordable housing. Too much, not enough, define it. I'm just asking, I'll throw it out there. Lack of affordable housing. Pardon?
They're in there.
Lack of affordable housing. Got it.
What's the 1% you can see?
It's, lack of affordable housing is an issue we're seeing in almost every community. Not all, but almost every. Okay, staff, go ahead, I'm sorry here.
There's a sector of the population that's very resistant to development.
Yep, good. resistant to development. Okay, Patrick?
I think this sort of dovetails with the one about the rec facility that was mentioned earlier. Lack of recreational and entertainment venues and opportunities.
Okay. So lack of recreation and entertainment opportunities. All right.
Almost all of mine are taken or fit into one or the other.
Okay.
I would go with stormwater facilities.
All right. Stormwater, let's put stormwater up there. And our IT whiz, you're in the room too, you can participate if you want.
All up there.
All up there? Okay, good deal. So we've been around once, we've got 15 up there. Let's go around one more time real quickly. If you've got another one you want to throw up there, let's hear it.
I think we covered it.
Okay?
Yeah.
You're pretty good, all right?
Riverfront,
Good, riverfront development. Need for riverfront development, right? Right. Yeah, you got a nice plan in place, you got some new regulations in place, it'd be nice to see some, yeah. Okay,
An inconsistent Main Street?
good. Right, inconsistent Main Street. Yeah, some parts are as charming as can be, and the buildings are great and really nice, and other areas, the momentum is lost. So inconsistent Main Street,
Well, I'm gonna add the recruiting quality employees.
okay,
Kansas City High School's got a grant
right.
for that, and we've done that, everybody's done it.
So recruiting, you say quality employees?
Employees,
Okay,
like the workforce.
so
Workforce.
right, workforce is what I said, I would say recruiting employees / quality workforce.
That's for,
And it's funny, in a lot of places we work in different parts of the country, when we talk with the business community, that meeting, there's a lot of the industry leaders there too, they'll tell you flat out, top 3 issues, workforce. Guys, we've got to have, and then that gets to affordable housing and livable wage, it gets to so many other things, but their number one issue right off the bat, they say, listen, we need an educated and trained quality workforce. They'll tell you flat out.
I think you've covered most of them.
Okay?
Oh, no. We own 2 stores, one here in Kansas City, one in Pueblo, and we find that the tax rate here is a little higher than it should be. I don't know if we can do anything about that, but sometimes it's worth sales tax and property. I'll give you 2 examples. The sales tax, as far as if we sell a product here versus in Pueblo,
Right.
it might be cheaper. They might save $500 if they go to Pueblo 30 minutes away to save that money. As far as the property taxes, in 2012-13, my building, $1,000. This last year, $6,000. So property taxes have gone up exponentially for me. And
What portion of that is the city's percentage of the tax?
I'm not sure what that is, because I mean, there's a long list
There's a
of
long list of-
fees and all these other things. I know some of it is, education that we just recently passed, you know, the schools and all that.
Probably school,
and the
fire
roads
protection
and things
district,
like
water,
that,
and a whole bunch.
which we all need, but if we're talking about all these things that we do need in order to build this infrastructure, is that gonna raise our tax?
Right, good point. So high tax, I think that's very good. Yeah, I know it's, that's why I was asking the percentage issue, because I know for both retail, entertainment, food and beverage, if there is one, and property, there's a lot of people at that trough, and municipalities, the piece, I just didn't know what it was.
We're a very small fraction.
Yeah, typically, schools is almost always the biggest, so. When I lived in Cook County outside Chicago, I could give a lecture on high tax.
I don't have any.
You're good, okay?
I used to work at Double Lake Grass Abbey in developing the property some years ago, and it is such a grand
Right?
ambassador, you know, and so I'm just concerned about the direction it's going to go.
That's
And
good.
it's literally caving in inside, if
Okay.
you saw it.
So the direction of the Abbey property is sort of what we're gonna do with it, and what's gonna happen to it. It's, when you drive in, it's stunning. I mean, you can't help but sort of stop and you sort of crane, like, what is that? I mean, it's beautiful, it really stands out. We drove around back there, and the property in the areas around it, besides the buildings, some of the big main buildings, some of the other buildings, boy, if ever there was a building that sort of begged for
Yeah.
creative and appropriate adapters, we're used to sort of Ambassador is a good way to put it. When you drive in and you see that, it does sort of welcome you to Canyon City. It's a very nice, it's a gorgeous building. You're good?
Populace that will complain about everything.
Yeah, a populace that complains about everything, so. Welcome to the planning. I think I took 2 courses on that. It's great. All right, anybody else want to throw one out? We'll go around one more time real quick. If they've got another one they want to add, just raise your hand. Oh, staff. I'm sorry. Let's go back to it. Yep.
Homelessness, massive problem.
Okay, homelessness. Good.
Fix that here.
And well, you bring up a good, when you said, I don't know how we can fix that here. The comprehensive plan can do a lot. Now legally, it's established by the Standard State Enabling Planning Acts, okay? And every state has theirs. It's also Standard State Zoning Enabling Acts. One's 1926, one's 1928. The zoning one came first. Even though planning should be done before. And it's regulated by the state. And one of the states that I think that we've worked in that does one of the best jobs that demonstrates and articulates in its legislation in the act what the purpose and intent of a comprehensive plan is Colorado. Colorado's language on the intent and purpose and how to use a comprehensive plan is really quite good. So we can have Patrick send that around to everybody if you want to see. It's very well crafted language. And it gives you a good sense of the full breadth of what planning is. Now, having said that, there's a lot of things that will come up in the course of this dialogue that comprehensive plan just can't address. And that doesn't mean it can't impact some of the influences of that, or impact some of the variables, or some of the symptoms of that, or get some of the root causes of it. But some things are hard for a plan to get at. Taxes that may be done by the school, the county, water districts, whatever else. Comprehensive plan is going to have no impact on that. But we need to be aware that it's an issue and to see what we can do to mitigate that to the extent we're able to. Homelessness is another tough one. That's a very complex issue. They can go back to livable wages, affordable housing, employment, training, education, drug addiction, mental health. I mean, there's so many things. A lot of those are very limited things that the city can have gravity to address, but we need to know about these issues. So we want to hear all issues, but some are going to have limited ability to address as effectively as others.
Going back to Randy, and contrary, but also, I guess in relation to it, lack of funds in the community or available to support the infrastructure of the community.
Very good. Lack of funds to support infrastructure. That's
And
a very
rely on sales tax,
right.
which is already high.
Right. But if you're changing,
Outside the area, we take property tax to
yeah,
allow people in.
that's typical. That's typical. We work in some communities that they don't have local property tax, and they complain to the property tax. That's true story. And these are sort of these small towns that have like 50 car dealerships, or a town of 6,000 residents that has the region's largest mall, and they make so much revenue off of that, they're like, nobody pays property taxes because the dealerships have taken up the pay for all of it. We work in a lot of towns like that. All right, Patrick?
This is probably the sort of answer when you expect a planner to give. I find that the residential zone districts that we have here have sort of a built-in sameness to them. So as a result of that, there's sort of an implied rigidity about them.
Right. So I would say lack of diversity in the housing regulations, is that a decent way to put it? Yeah, it's a fairly, not dislinear, but there's a homogeneous quality to the rhythm of some of your zoning your residential areas. Again, different in different areas of the town. I'm not saying it's all the same, but there's not, you don't see this diversity of housing development products coming out that you would sort of see in most communities. That's true. Very good. You're good? All right, so right now we've got 24, so just for purposes of time, we're going to cap it off there. I know. But again, we're collecting your papers, and what we record is off your papers. This is just to help us keep track tonight. But we record off your papers, so don't worry about it. If we didn't get you, we'll get it. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to then go to question number 2. And before you write on this, here's why we do this. When we do this, we say what are the 5 most important things. You know, most when we do this in the public, there's always that grumpy old guy that says, you know what? I'll tell you what the 5 most important things are. I've lived here my whole life. I know what the top 5 are. It's about time somebody asked me. Here's what they are. And they list off the 5. And then we do this exercise, and they can see what everybody in the room said. And that person, about 60, 70% of the time, when they ask to identify their top 3, it's not any of the 5 they first wrote down. Okay? And what that means is something somebody else said resonated with them. And that starts you thinking about your community in a different way. And that person often comes up and says, you know, the young woman sitting next to me, I never thought about what she said, but that's a great idea. We should be doing what she said. That's a great idea. So out of everything we've gone through that you, again, not that we've generated, but what this group's generated, 24 things, from this list, pick your top 3 in order of importance. Write down the number. I don't want you to rewrite it, and I don't want you to take the liberty of combining them. All right? You have to go by what it is and the number and write down in order of importance by using the number. Your number 1 most important, number 2 most important, number 3 most important. Write that down. So, top 3 in order of importance. When you're done, put your pens down and do a little voting real quick, so we can see what you think. And if you don't know, if you can't read Josh's writing, or you don't know what the heck it is we are saying, ask us and we'll revisit it to make sure we have it recorded correctly. Because again, we took the liberty of abbreviating some of this. Now, what's interesting is you do this with a room with 200 people in it, and we do. We will typically see 5 to 8 things get 80% of the votes. So when forced to pick and choose what's really most important, not always, sometimes you'll see like 2 votes, 3 votes, 2 votes, 1 vote, 2 votes, and everybody just, but we usually see consensus. All right, does everybody have their 3? It's not easy, I know. And this isn't the toughest question. But we designed this series of 4 questions to deal with groups of 10 or groups of 300 in 90 minutes. We can do the same thing. We don't do the big presentation we did like we did for you guys, but if we do an audience with 200 people in the room, we will go through this exercise and the wall will just be covered in these sheets. But in 90 minutes, we can get a list of issues. We can get a list of what they think issues are the most important. We will get a list of what they think we should be doing about it, and we get a list of what they like best about where they live. And that's it's a good format to get a lot of useful information out of a big group quick. All right, so we're going to go through this. Hopefully you've got your 3. And again, you only get 3. The most honest community in the United States is Coralville, Iowa, according to my unofficial survey. We say, oh, we got 5 votes for this, 6 votes for that. We tally up all the votes, and it should be 3 times as many people as that are in the room. Okay, never happens. Except Coralville, Iowa, they had 25 people in the room, and they had 75 votes. I was astounded. I was amazed. In one town, there was this woman sitting in front of the neighborhood, so there's about 150 people in the room, and she was probably in her mid-90s. She was a sweetheart, and her neighbors were sitting behind her, and it was these 2 guys and this other young couple, all probably in their late 20s. And every time I read something off, you could audibly hear her say, oh, that's a good one. And she'd raise her hand. And I don't think she realized she was saying it as loud as she was because she couldn't hear real well. And everybody was sort of like chuckling. They all knew where she was listening. And the 2 guys that sat behind her that were next to her neighbors, they brought her to the meeting. She sat in the front. They were doing like the swimming, diving things. And she'd say it, and they'd be like, and they kept texting, you got 3 votes. They kept, I think at one point, she heard the giggling, she turned around and saw what they were doing, she just died laughing. It was very funny. Okay, so I'm going to read these off. If you voted for it as your number 1, number 2, or number 3 issue, I want you to raise your hand. I don't care which one it was, but if I read it off and it appeared somewhere on your answer to question number 2, just raise your hand, okay? So who had vacant rundown buildings as one of their top 3? Josh, you kind of off me, I'm not going to look, I'm just going to write. High rent.
One.
Challenge attracting employers. All right, need aquatic or recreation facility, aquatic recreation facility. All right, no, so I'll say this, I say this all the time. Just because yours doesn't get a vote, whoever said this, doesn't mean we're not gonna look into it. It just means everyone forced to pick and choose. It didn't make the cut tonight, that's all. Doesn't mean it's not a good idea. Reputation of being not business friendly is an issue.
Four.
Recruiting and retaining businesses. Challenge of mixed use, land use in close proximity, sort of how there's just a lot of different uses. Oh. Downtown area parking, and not just the downtown, but sort of this one was more of an emphasis on the downtown, but parking. Lack of public transportation. Nope. Fremont Drive. Look at that, you said it, and you got 2 other votes, look at that.
Honestly, I couldn't see those very well.
We'll give you 2 plus for lack.
Yeah, why don't you put me on that one?
Okay, we'll do that.
Yes, please. Thank you.
You show the sequence.
Our numbers are not gonna add up.
I know, right? Okay, they never do anyway.
I did not do it.
Connectivity. An example given was like the riverfront, the downtown, things like that need to be better connected.
Would you say what number you're on?
I'm sorry, this is number 11, I'm sorry, I should be reading those off. Number 11. And number 12, lack of affordable housing. Okay. 13, residents resistant to development. 14, lack of recreational and entertainment uses and venues.
2.
Stormwater issues, stormwater facilities, things like that. Need for riverfront development.
Number 3. 3.
Inconsistent Main Street.
1.
Recruiting employees and quality workforce.
1.
High taxes.
3.
3, and we're gonna get that exclamation point, because that was a pretty enthusiastic. The direction the Abbey property is going in the future, sort of what's gonna happen to it. Populace complains about everything. Welcome to being a public official, right? Homelessness. Lack of funds to support infrastructure. And then number 24, lack of diversity in the housing regulations. No? Okay. So the big winner was lack of affordable housing, challenge attracting employers, and then I think we had a bunch of 4s. The 4s were vacant rundown buildings, reputations being not business friendly, and challenge recruiting and retaining businesses. So again, a lot of good ones, but what I saw a lot here were people voting for ideas that they didn't say, which again, you start thinking about your community a little bit different. And that's the purpose of this exercise. Next thing I want you to do is, and now I typically say this to an audience when the city council is not in the room, okay? But I'm going to tell you what I tell an audience anyway. Tomorrow morning, the city council and the mayor wake up and say, you know what, we're out of here, we're moving to Naples, good luck, all right? And they're looking at you. What's your name again? They're looking at it, and you're saying, here's the story. You're in charge. The whole community comes together and says, you're in charge, you're the man, we got your back.
Brian, you're in charge.
We'll do what, we'll do whatever you want.
Starting right now.
Starting today, or starting tomorrow morning when we wake up. What are the 3 things we do or start doing to make Canyon City a better place? You have to pick 3 specific things. I don't want like, address homelessness. I want to say like, work with the not-for-profit to build a homeless shelter. Or I don't want to say challenge getting businesses here. Develop an economic development commission to work with economic development staff to do a PR campaign for recruitment. I want specificity. I want to see the Abbey property develop as a historically based, mixed-use development with affordable housing and market housing. I want specificity. You're in charge, all right? You're in charge. And everybody is looking at you, everybody, and say, we'll back your play, we'll do whatever you say. Be specific. What are the 3 things we start doing when we wake up tomorrow? The 3 things that we can do tomorrow to start making this a better place. The specific project, action, initiative, whatever you want to call it. It can be physical, it can be policy, it can be whatever. You're in charge, you're calling the shots. 3 things you would do to make this better. We've already talked about what you think some of the problems are. We've already talked about what you think the biggest problems are. Okay, that's great. What are you going to do about it? And it does not have to relate to anything up here. It's something we haven't heard of. It doesn't matter. You're in charge. It's all on you. Everybody's got your back. We'll find the money. What do we do? 3 things, write it down. Be as specific as you feel comfortable being. All right? It looks like about half of you are done, so I'll give you another minute. What's the temperature typically like this time of year? Are you close?
It's on the high side today,
Yeah, I thought it was a little warm today before I heard it was.
but we generally see some 90s.
Yeah. Night drops down to what, upper 60s, low 70s?
Overnight.
Yeah, right. I lived in Phoenix for about 5 years in the Phoenix area, and I loved the fact that, you know, it'd be 100 plus during the day and drop down to like, that 30, 40 degree swing every day. I loved it. I thought it was great. The desert really cools down when the sun goes. All right, so we're going to go around now. If you're still writing, I keep writing. We're not going to write these down. I want to hear them. Again, we'll summarize them. And whenever we do an event like this, when we do it with the public, we do it with you, the business workshop, we summarize what we hear. And we will post those summaries on the project website. So if you attended a workshop, you can click on the summary and see if we got it right. If you didn't, you can click on it and see what was discussed. And we'll do that with everything. So everything is super transparent. So since it's all on you, we'll start with you. Give us one of your projects that you would do, or one of your things.
With fixed Highway 50, that generally involves removing the frontage road.
Okay, fix Highway 50, good.
It incentivizes businesses to bring in new business.
Okay.
Better jobs.
So we're really focused on that business recruitment. Okay, good.
Mine is about our sweeping giant of our amenities that are out there, for all the outdoor amenities, like the rock climbing and so on.
Right.
People need to be coming internationally. Here we have the best. Make it more into a
I
destination.
can't tell you from an economic perspective, and it dovetails with business recruitment and everything else. Focusing on quality of life is the single biggest economic engine driver anywhere. It's not necessarily about taxes, it's not necessarily about incentives or TIP districts or anything else, or processes. And I'm going to go into just a little brief here to demonstrate this. We did the comprehensive plan for Bentonville, Arkansas, a couple of years ago. We'll look at it online. World headquarters for Walmart, okay? Bentonville, Arkansas. And they were having trouble because they would recruit the very best and brightest from around the world to work at the world headquarters. People would work there 2, 3 years and they were gone. They got the salary, they got the resume, and they were out. And they were spending a fortune training people they couldn't retain. It didn't matter how much money they gave them, the salary or anything else. They finally got around to asking them, and they did a whole big exercise of exit interviews and circling back to people who used to work for them. And they said, listen, at the end of the day, I didn't want to live in Bentonville, Arkansas. You know, come on. And so the Waltons, the two brothers, the daughter focused on Crystal Bridges Museum, the two sons got together, and their sons, the grandsons, said, let's focus on mountain biking. The two grandsons were avid mountain bikers, and so the two sons, the Walton sons, they hired the best mountain bike trail designers in the world. They came to Bentonville, they did Bentonville, the surrounding region, they did the local communities, all the whatever, designed the whole thing, built the whole thing, hundreds of miles of trails, and then deeded it back. And they said, let's start a not-for-profit and start investing in restaurants, real nice restaurants. And even if we take a hit on the front end, who cares? Let's get it going. 3 years ago, they had the World Mountain Bike Summit, was in Bentonville, Arkansas. It has rapidly become one of the single biggest mountain biking destinations in the world. People now are moving to Bentonville, Arkansas in droves that have nothing to do with Walmart. And Walmart employees are now staying because it's the coolest place to live. The kayaking, the mountain biking, the arts, the venues, the restaurants, phenomenal. And they did it by focusing on quality of life. Oklahoma City did the same thing. And they turned Oklahoma City around. So talk about related things, recruitment, getting people here, retention of businesses, make it a great place to live, make it a greater place to live, make sure people know it's a great place to live. Start with the amenities you have that others don't that distinguish Canyon City from other places. But you are on a key point there in terms of so many other things. I couldn't agree more.
I wrote, build or develop mixed-use apartments where it's not just low income, but it's everyone living together in the same apartment complex.
Mixed income. That is the biggest driver right now in affordable housing, is mixed income. There's no stigma tax, the numbers work out, they pencil out in terms of pro forma for the development, yeah.
I want to brand Canyon City as a tourism mecca by building a hotel complex at 8 Mile and East Canyon while raising lodging tax to include building a community condo and housing units to house employees with residential discounts to all the outfitting activities.
Absolutely love it. That is specificity, and it's a great plan. You just tied in a lot of what some of the other people were talking about into a pretty cohesive thing. That's great.
Center.
Pardon?
Rec Center.
Rec Center. Look at that. From how many words to 2 words, right? Bam, bam.
We work together.
Oh, see? What do you say?
So I have very specific projects for this one with the riverfront development work.
That's I think that's key, especially with all the effort you put into that area already, both in terms of plans and regulations.
Well, Ashley said a little bit more specific for attracting retail and restaurants to do.
Okay. Attracting retail and restaurants, really focusing on that industry. Okay.
I put down P-Tech for trades.
Okay.
Okay, and that's pathways and technology. We have a really cool and very active tech community here in this area, and they were the first rural technology grant nationwide, and so what they have set up is an apprenticeship program where interns, by taking classes in high school, doing their intern work for these technology companies that are here at town
Right.
just now, get 2 free years of college.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, yeah. So
That's great.
P-Tech for the trades.
P-Tech for the trades, I like that, not really expressed, that's fantastic.
All mine are kind of touched on, but we can say, downtown development authority, revisit the downtown development.
So you used to have a DDA, or
We talked about it, and
got it? Okay.
Yeah, it died before I got here, but we are working on urban renewal.
Right.
With the inclusion of downtown area.
Okay.
And hiring into program managers.
That's right. How are we working? Okay. Good. It's good that you go on.
institute incentives to keep buildings in repair and rented.
I think that's a great one. Institute, to get buildings repaired and rented and occupied, you've got some great bones here. And for someone who's not been in your city before, you turn the corner and think like, oh, that's such a cool building. You turn the corner again, like, oh, that's what a great building. I mean, your bones here are phenomenal. Adaptive reusing and bringing up to speed old buildings can be tough and can be costly and can be everything else, but man, when you have those effectively adaptively reused as food hubs or apartments or loft condominiums or whatever, man, it just so adds to the fabric of what you got here in terms of the richness and sense of place. It's not anywhere Main Street, it's Canyon City. That's a huge one, I think. You don't want to lose those. They're just so important. I think that's great.
Develop or create a safe method to cross US 50 with an underpass for pedestrians.
Oh, I like that. Where would you put it? Any idea as to?
There's only a limited amount of places you could put to get the elevation that you need, but
Okay.
it's possible.
Okay, interesting. I like that. That is a pretty big barrier to cross.
Right, you need the elevation.
Develop industrial business park infrastructure.
Develop industrial business park infrastructure. Okay.
Wait, you're putting staff in charge now? Because I'd like to nominate Elijah.
Sounds good. Let's get on that.
Everybody's pretty much touched on that.
Elijah wants to be Canyon City as a gigabit community, should that be cool?
There you go.
That's not a bad one, so we'll work on that too. We've helped a few communities try to get that done, that's a game changer, yeah.
So I put, work with developer of the Abbey property on a project which would include the following: historically sensitive developments featuring mixed uses, including housing diversity and affordable housing, commercial areas along Highway 50 for new retail and business opportunities, recreation center and interconnectivity of neighborhoods and streets from east and west to serve as a bypass to around Highway 50.
That's great. No, that's fantastic, yeah. The starting point for that area and the property involved in that area, you can do so many cool things. I look at that, I just salivate over the potential of what could be there.
The biggest piece of
Yeah.
infill development for city.
Right, and talk about already capitalizing on what you have in a perfect location with the light there, it's perfect. I agree.
Most of mine have already been said, but I guess I would finish with the start of finishing the project that we already got started and seeing the finish line.
Right, that's good too. All right, so I'm sure there's a bunch more out there, we'll get those when we collect your papers, but again, it's important when we do this. It's one thing to say what you think the issues are, it's another thing to say what you think the most important issues are, it's a whole other ballgame to say what you do about it. It's a whole other ballgame, because bottom line is, that's what it's all about, is some action. So, the last question is sort of, what is Canyon City's greatest strength, its greatest assets? Because the bottom line is, if you don't identify what is best about what you have, you run the risk of losing it. And the example I give is, back in the 60s and early 70s, when urban renewal came out, this big federal push, there were these federal initiatives to go across the United States, and they went into all these little bitty downtowns, and they said, we're going to bring you into the modern age, we're going to make your downtown economically successful, we're going to close off this street and put in big parking lots, and see all that fancy limestone facades, well, that's costly to expand, maintain, so let's put vinyl siding over that, it's the wave of the future, and let's bring in here these, and they just decimated these local communities. So what are, in the last 20 years, what have small downtowns across the country done, is they focus on bringing back charm and character. And the bottom line is, when they set out to focus on these downtowns during urban renewal 50 years ago, economic development and vitality is an important thing for a small downtown. But what they should have said is, what is most important to us is sense of place, local architecture and history, and who we are, our character and our pedestrian atmosphere. Holding those things as sacred, how can we revitalize our downtown economically? But they didn't say what was most important. They just moved into the next thing, and they wiped out what was good that they had. Towns do it all the time. If you don't value your historic structures, you will lose them. If you don't put something into them, because at some point they'll be like, they're too far gone. What is most important about what you have? What are your greatest strengths? What are your greatest assets? Somebody else mentioned the mountain climbing, the environment, the activities. So one of the best things you have is the defining characteristics. Build off of that. But what do you think are the best things about Canyon City? What are Canyon City's greatest strengths? What are Canyon City's greatest assets? Let's hear some of those, because the bottom line is you've got to build off of those things going forward. As you seek to change some things, and you'll need to, you have to stridently seek to improve and protect what you have that is good, and define it. And so what are those things? And write them down. Let's just hear them as you write them down. For purposes of time, raise your hand if you got one you want to share. What do you think the greatest asset or strength of Canyon City is? Yeah?
I think it's our beautiful setting and that we're so close to so many of the recreational opportunities.
Very good.
So I've got two. Tourism / climate / the Arkansas River. That's basically well, I'm not cheating. The second one is historic buildings and the city's place in history, as we're older than the state of Colorado.
We got a great history tour today, I gotta say. That was pretty impressive. To know that level of history on everything that we saw was fantastic.
We have really great small town charm.
Small town charm, right. And that's a perfect example. That is lost in so many places. A place that over time has done a good job of that, not so much small town, but uniqueness, is Asheville. Anybody been to Asheville?
North Carolina.
Pardon?
North Carolina.
Yeah, North Carolina.
My sister-in-law just moved there.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And it used to be, I don't know if they're still as strict as they used to be. I was down there when they had just approved the Walgreens in the downtown. And it was like torches and pitchforks getting in Walmart, a Walgreens, not a Walmart, a Walgreens drugstore. They didn't have one. Had to be mom and pops, had to be local. If you had more than 3, it was considered a chain. You couldn't have it in the downtown. It was super strict, mom and pop, uniquely Asheville, hippies everywhere. I mean, it was their thing. And if you were a chain or a national, whatever else, didn't fly there. Just did not fly there. And they held to it, and over time it became like the coolest, one of the southern downtowns going. And they didn't lose it because they said, this is more important than anything else. It's not going to be easy, but this is more important. And they held true, and it worked. So that charm is key. Anybody else have one they want to throw out there? Good thing about asset or strength of Canyon City?
I think that we are a great commutable distance to the city, so we can serve as a sleeping town also.
Oh, like a bedroom community, so like, oh, interesting, nice. Yeah, it's pretty easy to get here, right?
And you can get to the cultures of the big cities really quickly.
That's a plus.
One of the things that I think the coronavirus has done is maybe given us a view of this, but really one of the strengths in this area is our community. The community itself, the people in it.
Right.
It's really been amazing what's been going on. There, of course, there's always, detractors, people missing, stuff like that, but it really is a pretty great community.
People is one of the best assets any community can have. We do, like I said, a lot of work in Flint, and Flint has seen better days. I mean, when we worked there 10 years ago or so, it was in rough shape. They've had a lot of strides since then. And they used to be 205,000, now they're 97,000, they lost about half the population in 50 years. But the people that are left, they love Flint, and they will defend that place. That is their home, and they were so great to work with. They loved that place. And it was their greatest asset. It was really remarkable to see.
I would just add that I think we have a great group of nonprofits that really cover a variety of different things and really make our community a much stronger and healthier place.
That's great. That's great. They do things municipalities as a government entity are not equipped to do. That's very good. They're real good partners.
Some of the success of the growing tech sector is work-life balance.
Right. Oh, that's very good. All right, anybody else? One more? Go ahead. One more. Yep. Go ahead, yeah.
If anybody else wants to make but I think right now, it just seems like the stars are really aligned for Canyon City. We have a lot of big leadership in place across a lot of major stakeholders, have a high vision, and they're getting things done.
That's great. That's great. What's the relationship like between city, school district, other government taxing bodies? Pretty good. That's great. A lot of cities have so much potential never to get there because those relationships are not good, and it's so hard to watch that dysfunction. It's nice to work in a town where they're cooperative. All right, so that's the end of that exercise. Josh, go ahead, your part. You got it. So again, I just want to go through the next steps. So, online engagement, we're going to be pushing that out through social media. That's the website, questionnaire, the mapping. Lead by example, get out there, jump on the website, get your significant others, jump on your website, kids, jump on the website. Anybody in your drinking circle or bicycling club, jump on the website, fill it out. We'll start pushing that out. Again, it's picturecanyonCity2040.com. We'll be coming back in September. Do not have the date set for in-person engagement, business workshop, one-on-one interviews, small group discussions, and whatever this larger public engagement format is. We don't know quite yet what that will look like. We're going to be working over the next couple of months the existing conditions analysis report, and we'll be doing field reconnaissance, data gathering, interviews, engagement, and a lot of other work over the next couple of months working with city staff and other entities. So that's sort of what we're going to be working on over the next couple of months. So with that, that is the end of the program tonight. So again,
I would just like to add, for anyone that's interested, I have family that actually lives in Bentonville, Arkansas. So it's actually been really interesting to see the things that you guys have done. It was really exciting to hear that you were part of that. So I just wanted to share from a personal perspective with all of you that it's been really, really amazing to watch how that area has changed. I mean, it's not really in a pretty spot. Fayetteville, like U of A, and all these other areas compete and have a lot more interesting things and Rogers going on than Bentonville. But the things that have been done in that area that have promoted, obviously, the sound making pieces of Walton Stiff, but just getting everybody engaged. The square is really neat. The things they do at Christmas time are really cool. And it re-engaged the community itself to be able to put back the effort. So I just wanted to share that, not knowing before that it was but it's really neat. So definitely a success story.
They reinvented themselves, and it was one of the best national examples of just going all in with the strategy of, let's just focus on making this the greatest place to live. And it really is remarkable. I knew people that grew up there, lived there, moved away for 8 years and came back and they said, where am I? Like, this is, like they grew up there and they didn't recognize it. It's really remarkable. So again, this is a good kickoff. As you can see when I went through the scope, we are coming back and working with this group 4 or 5 times over the course of the next 10 months. So we'll be back here frequently going over material. Going forward, if we have material or meetings to go over stuff, you'll be getting that material at least a week ahead of time, so you can see us when we get it here. We'll be able to really jump in and tear it up. If you have any questions at any time on anything, you're more than welcome to call me up directly or email me. I'm very, very accessible. But what we do ask is that you go through Patrick, and the reason being is you might call me up and have a great question, or email me directly, and we could have a good conversation, or email exchange, but it may be something everybody would benefit from. And it goes through Patrick, then it can be dispersed and disseminated, and we can track it as a group. So call me up if you want to. I'm free and willing to talk to anybody anytime. But if you want to get to us, the best way for process, I think, is to go through Patrick. He can then get it to us. We get it back to Patrick, and he'll get it out to everybody else. But if you want to chat, I always like talking to anybody. So we are thrilled. What's that? Oh, we'll collect these, yeah. So we're thrilled to be engaged on this. We think it's going to be an absolute blast of an assignment to work on. I'm jealous. This is an amazing community. We've done a lot of research before we came here. I think I've been up and down every street on Google Maps. It's nice to actually be here in person. But just really remarkable. And I think this is going to be a terrific project. So look forward to working with you over the next 10 months. Thank you for being in the position you are for the city. I know it takes a lot of time and effort, and for dedicating to this process. So thank you, and I look forward to working with you. Nice job. And we will collect your papers, so we hand them to one of us, or,
So, I noticed in your little presentation information that you have in here numerous times about presenting information to staff, and then staff reviewing and critiquing it and adjusting it, and then presenting it to planning commission and council. I'm not sure who that staff is. I would hope that it's these 2 staff exclusively, but if in general we're talking about presenting that, with all due respect, to city staff, and having them scrutinize a plan and then present it to council, I'm adamantly opposed to that process. And it's because, in the past, we've been through processes where when it gets to council, and council says, that's really not what we wanted. Then we get this frustration level from staff saying, well, that's what we thought you wanted. And we're we're too far along in the process now to really change it.
Right.
So we need to make for sure that the process is appropriate, that this whole process is being driven by council and by the planning commission.
Yeah, so let me just address it real quickly. So it is, staff is not driving or generating content or direction. So, we do work in every project I've ever worked on with my firm for 15 years and other firms before that. I can't think of one project, and this could be the exception if we want to do it differently. Whenever something, before it goes to a steering committee or to council or to plan commission, it goes to staff just to take a look at it, say, like, this is incorrect, or there's a mistake on this map. It's not to change policy direction or to change a recommendation to a new direction. It's to be that, sort of look at it before it goes for discussion. That's why we have 4 or 5 meetings with this group as the sounding board. Like I said, we bring things here to you in draft form. We roll up our sleeves, we work through it. It's when it comes out of this group, it goes out to public consumption and feedback and comment. But it goes to staff in terms of process, in terms of just to take a look at it, to make sure, we heard about this isn't in here, we need to address this, or you didn't do that. But it's not to guide, it's not to steer, but it always, in every project I've ever done, it's gone to staff to look at it. It's just like when a report goes to the city council or a report goes to the plan commission, it goes to, if a developer proposes something, it goes to staff to prepare that report to go to council or plan commission. So when we prepare draft materials, they look at it just to give it a quick one, sorry, yeah, missed this is good, what about that, whatever. Not to guide, not to shape, so that when you get it, the direction we're getting is from this as a working group. You are our sounding board. This is where we roll up our sleeves and work through stuff to make sure it's right before we go to the next step. So staff is not reviewing it to say that it's going to be staff's plan or they're guiding it, but these are the people, the staff are the people that are on the streets that administer this. They administer zoning, they administer the comprehensive plan, they're processing building permits. So to have that level of viewing it from a perspective of, is this something blatantly wrong or incorrect or catching a mistake before it comes to you for the vetting of the ideas, the policy, the process, the recommendations. So if the direction is to revise that or review it, we can. We're at your disposal to process however you want. But it doesn't go to staff to shape it and then come to you. It goes to staff to look at it before it goes to you to make sure it's what it needs to be as a package.
So, Councilman Heiser, the intent was to follow a very similar process to what we did with the riverfront zoning. And we wrote the RFP in that fashion. There was a lot of staff time, a lot of work that went before it, that we had to do before it came to council and planning commission. And that's a very similar process here. There's going to be a lot of work that gets done. A lot of heavy lifting can be done by Patrick and myself, right? And that's what the intent here is when he says it goes to staff.
Right.
We're taking the direction from this work group in order to put together those documents. And as John mentioned, they're part of this team, the staff team as well. And that's really, we're going to be doing all that heavy lifting and then bringing back what was discussed with council and planning commission, right, to this joint session.
But my point is, there was a number of times with the riverfront where council had to adamantly say, you got it wrong here, go back to the table. And that happened on some subjects multiple times before staff realized this is what council wants. And I don't want to go through that process here, where we keep rejecting stuff because we're getting presented with information that this group is not willing to support.
And I guess, let's say this, again, we can do whatever is at your direction. But we're going to be looking at transportation, infrastructure, facilities, zoning, land use development, economic initiatives that are coming up. We have to make sure that we have the literacy we need on all these things. Staff is the one who on a daily basis navigates and has direct point of contact with all of those things. So if we're writing something that has to do with that, they need to look it over to make sure it's correct or not in terms of policy. That's this group, and our direction is going to be from this group. So if you see something and say, boy, I don't like this as an idea, it's coming from us. If it was something that we say, hey, we heard what you said, is this something we want to consider? It may be an idea we bring up for consideration or to talk about. And if you say, no, we don't like it, we need to go back and maybe do that another way, we're like, okay, that's the direction we're looking for, we'll go back and do it a different way. But know that our intent is not to punt the staff, to have them pushing that. Ideas for consideration will be driven by stuff of what we've researched, what we've heard from from the community and this group, and then based off of that, we will bring ideas forward for this group to discuss. That's the process. They make sure that because they navigate this stuff daily for the city, from a technical perspective, they need to look at what we generate to make sure it's technically correct, not policy or recommendation. So that's how I interpret this process to unfold, is the best way I can articulate it. So, but if we wanted, if it's the direction to do it a different way, we can accommodate whatever way that needs to be.
I'm just telling you what I'm doing. Okay, we've been through this numerous times, I just want, the focus needs to come from this group.
And that's why if you look at it, and it
You're
was,
gonna accomplish that, then
Right.
I applaud you,
and
let's move forward.
And it wasn't even necessarily in the RFP, it was a little bit, but that's why we had this joint thing several times throughout the process, because,
That was extensively discussed in interviews, that
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
sounding board was this one here.
Okay.
that's from the very beginning and throughout every step.
I'm gonna agree with you, because I remember being on the planning commission, there was a couple of times when something came across the dais and we were up there, and I felt like I was just overstanding something, I had no idea what it was about, even after reading it for a few days. So just the fact that this exists right now,
Right.
in my thinking, is a huge thing.
And our approach, like I told you, our approach, or my personal approach, and professional approach to planning and zoning, and the perspective with which I approach it, it's not academic, it's not theoretical. I view everything through the lens of an entrepreneur, because I own my own business. I know what it takes to keep the lights on. I know what it takes to make payroll every 2 weeks. I don't view things from an academic perspective or theory or concept. I'm looking at, is this real? Will this work? Will this be viable, and will it get us where we need to be? That's how I approach planning. And from a process standpoint, I don't even like the term of, we have to get a process that really gets people to buy in. I cringe. Buy-in sounds coerced. How do we get people to buy in? Well, to me, that sounds coerced. Our whole process is predicated on the notion of community stewardship. If we get people to feel vested in what we're doing, that it's meaningful, that it's viable, that it's what we should be doing, and they are vested stewards of this process and the community, then this plan will work. Then this plan will be implemented. If people think as though they were somehow led to buy into it, it won't work. It won't have legs as soon as we vote. If there isn't a sense of community stewardship, it won't work. That's our premise for this process. So I'll pledge to you, from me to you, that's how our intention is, and that's how I will make sure this works. Okay? That's all I can do. All right, so again, look forward to working with you. Great bunch. This is going to be awesome. It'll be a lot of work, but it's going to be fun and rewarding. So thank you. Look forward to working with you.
Anything else from staff, or?
Just don't forget to leave.
Yeah, leave these on the table. We'll pick them up.
And our meeting is adjourned?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.